Chapter 5 Course. Sometimes avoidant personality disorder, AvPD, can improve spontaneously as the individual grows older. This improvement often results when psychological maturity associated with increasing insight based on ongoing introspection and continuous learning are coupled with new, fortuitous, corrective social experiences. As a result, the AvPD fades, leaving in its wake self-awareness in the form of the commonplace youth-to-age wisdom expressed as the retrospective amazement of what was I thinking then, and why did I act as I did? At other times, AvPD may not have so favorable an outcome, as the avoidant succumbent to his or her avoidance fails to emerge from or sinks further into the beckoning quagmire. This often happens because adolescent hormonal fires that stoke relational neediness die down at about the same time that adult relational fears strengthen. Societal prohibitions begin to wield greater influence, and new negative interpersonal experiences traumatize the individual, all leading to feelings of resignation and a pervasive sense of doom, accompanied by existential murmurings of hopelessness, creating a generalized inability to experience relational joy. As a result, paraphrasing Burns' reference to the lonely consequences of playing off-putting games because avoidants are not stroked, their spinal cords shrivel up. Also, as the years go by, depression can become superimposed on the avoidance, leading to increasing awareness of how much one is missing in life. This depression can also be intensified by escalating isolation due to withdrawal and panicky agoraphobia. Consequences of the depression, such as neglecting one's appearance and allowing antagonistic behavior toward others to proceed unchecked, may occur, along with vicious cycling between withdrawal from and rejection by others, ultimately resulting in family members and potential friends and lovers leaving, rarely being driven away. Millen describes a typical vicious cycle where avoidance timidity and shyness antagonize people who withdraw from the avoidant, thinking not he is afraid of me, but she doesn't like me. The patient's discontent, outbursts, and moodiness frequently evoke humiliating reactions from others, and these rebuffs only serve to reinforce his self-protective withdrawal. He often precipitates disillusionment through obstructive and negative behaviors, then reports feeling misunderstood, unappreciated, and demeaned by others. As time goes by, anergia and anhedonia can also appear as defensive avoidance continues to consume energy that would otherwise be available for relating and diverts it into denying and binding one's natural or healthy inclinations. Anergia or anhedonia can also appear because second-line defenses develop, bolstering, fixing, and protecting the remoteness. These defenses include hypomanic denial, consisting of resolutely not caring about being loved, inertia in the form of a protective striving for familiarity and sameness, rationalization, identification with the aggressor, and acting out. Rationalization. Avoidants who say they want to be alone are often really expressing a fear of connecting. Protesting too much about the splendid nature of isolation, they come to insist not quite convincingly because of the modest gratification to be obtained from the advantages they list. That I like to be alone because at least my apartment stays straight. I can sleep through without a lover snoring. No one stains my upholstery and wall-to-wall rug. And for companionship, I have all that anyone needs, my two delightful, loving cats. Other rationalizations include the following. I don't have time to meet people. One man placed a personal ad on the internet and then, making it look as if his work left him no time for fun, arranged to always be too busy to respond to any takers. I'm not ready. Young men like me should play the field a while longer. Some field players are profitably studying the terrain, but many are commitment phobics, excusing their inability to play, while others are neophiliacs, abandoning old lamps for new because being thrill seekers and easily tiring of what they already have, they pursue the unfamiliar, seeking variety as the only spice in their life. The world is a terrible place, full of terrible people. Examples follow. Out there, I have nothing but bad luck. I never met anyone any good in my whole life. Or in extremely unfavorable cases, there aren't any people where I live worthy of me. A sample uninsightful, cruel statement made by a woman in a singles bar as to why she would never try meeting people over the internet follows. The creeps in here are bad enough. Imagine what I'd find if I actually entered the chat rooms. I can't help myself. It's not my fault. It is true that some avoidants are in fact so anxious and fearful that they cannot help but retreat when faced with the possibility of forming a relationship. But others whose anxiety and fear are relative, not absolute, could, if they would, struggle against their anxiety, try to relate and do so successfully. However, they choose not to use willpower to fight their anxiety. Then, out of shame or guilt about being derelict, they say not, I choose not to, but I can't. The grapes are sour. One patient, afraid of women, thought instead, who wants one? And gave as his reason, after all, insides beneath that lovely exterior make a woman nothing but a well-packaged bag of dirt. Then added, and anyway, all wives cheat on their husbands. A case example. A patient had several ways to rationalize his unrelatedness. He announced, relationships are really not that important or essential. He dwelt on what he believed to be the philosophical meaninglessness of everything interpersonal until, as he later suggested, he became so preoccupied with the sound of one hand clapping that I can't erupt into spontaneous applause. He constantly told himself, what's the use of trying to meet someone? We are all going to die anyway. And convinced himself that the world was a terrible place because of life's little sardonic twists, such as, you can't get a partner unless you have relationship experience, and you can't get relationship experience unless you have a partner. Too often, other people buy into such rationalizations, thus perpetuating them. An avoidant friend of mine threw her husband, a PhD psychologist, out of the house after 3 months of marriage. I mentioned to the psychologist that though his ex-wife later said to me that she couldn't meet anybody new because there were no eligible men where she lived, I thought that what was keeping her back was not her geographical location, but her personal problems, and she should know all about those. Yet, in spite of his recent first-hand negative experience with her, he shot back that her difficulties weren't created by, but for her, due to her being stuck living in the boonies, a place where all the men were already married, so that the only men you could meet there were either cheating on their wives or complete losers who stay single, not because they want to, but because they have no other choice. A caveat is that it is necessary to distinguish rationalization from its opposite, guilt about being oneself. In rationalization, things that are feared are turned into matters of natural preference. In guilt about being oneself, matters of natural preference are turned into things that are feared. Thus, one woman who wanted to remain single, but was embarrassed to say so, said instead, "I am an avoidant, and as such, too fearful to even try to connect." Identification with the aggressor. In the realm of identification with the aggressor, relying on how the best defense is a good offense, avoidants reject others as a way to defend themselves against being rejected by them. The idea is to put others down before they can do the same thing to you. Theirs is, however, an unfortunate quest for immediate gratification, without concern for collateral damage and long-term consequences. For they overlook how, in the long run, putting others down changes the avoidant in others' eyes, from a person to be pitied and succored into one to be feared and ignored. Finally, avoidance can also worsen with a failure of helpful defenses already in place, so that avoidants can no longer handle their anxiety adequately. Now we see panic, increased self-monitoring due to spreading fear, and breakthrough depression accompanied by behavioral regression, appearing because avoidants can no longer deny and finally have to face their sad predicament, which for them becomes one that they feel entirely helpless to change.